Hello, and thank you for joining today's webinar, Securing the Modern LAN with DrayTek Threat Protection. I'm Alex Schuker, Head of Product at DrayTek UK and Ireland, and I'll be your presenter for today's session. The topic for today's webinar is our new cybersecurity solution, VigorShield Threat Protection, which is an automated threat protection solution that's a additional license that you can add on to supporting DrayTek routers. Right, let's get on to today's focus, which is threat protection. So VigorShield Threat Protection is a software license that has an agent that's added into supported routers. It has a few different key functions, and I'll just run through them here. One is device fingerprinting. That allows you to have device detection and identification of devices on the LAN, and this lays a kind of policy framework foundation through which then rules can be applied to those different device types. It also provides network and IoT security, so that's LAN-wide prevention of attacks and a dynamic firewall that reacts to events, and also a deep packet inspection, virtual hot patching functionality that can help with some IoT devices that haven't been patched potentially. And also the third pillar is content filtering. So this adds content filtering onto the network, so that allows you to have web risk protection through preventing access to undesirable sites, and also there's a policy model around that, so you can control what types of filtering rules get applied to different users and devices. Just run you through the agenda for today. So we're going to start off by explaining why threat protection is needed, then an overview of threat protection and the use case scenarios, and then a live kind of overview of the look and feel through the user portal, recap on license activation, and then a quick overview of the other part of VigorShield, which is the URL IP protection, which is a separate product, but I'll explain that, and then we have a summary and then the Q&A at the end. But let's moving on to the main presentation. So why is threat protection needed on networks? I think it comes around from all the different devices that are now present on networks. So the cybersecurity solution, threat protection, is a AI-powered security solution that is intended to help with protecting IoT devices in addition to other devices on the network. If we look at modern networks, they often have a variety of devices. Here we've got an image of a typical office with lots of devices on it. So we've got cameras for security. We have the thermostat that's controlling the heating. We have IP connected printers, network attached storage, and then users have their devices. So we've got the IP phones they have on their desk. We've got laptops, we've got mobile phones, tablets, different types of tablets, of course. We've got Android ones and other OSs like Apple ones, for example. And also we have things like, for example, coffee machines. And I think one of the first kind of IP connected devices back in the 90s was at Cambridge University, which was a webcam connected to a coffee machine to help the students and identify if there was any coffee left in their coffee machine. So devices have been connected to the internet for many decades now, and as soon as something's connected to the internet, it becomes a potential source of of security, because it could potentially be attacked by a hacker, and that's something that's always in the news. We've had lots of different kind of events that keep occurring when it comes to threats, and there's been reports that kind of the majority of malware activity is now due to Internet of Things botnets. They're quite attractive to attackers because if the attackers can take control of a device, it allows them to have more computing resource that they can use to launch distributed denial of service attacks, but also it's a way into the network, because once they're able to control a device on the network, they can use that as a launching pad to then get around the rest of the network once they're behind the perimeter firewall and able to then find out other devices that could be compromised and then get access to company data that can then be used for kind of ransomware or for exploiting for financial gain. Also, more recently, we've had AI come into this as well, into the news when it comes to the automated tools that the AI provide and the automation that it can provide attackers. Previously, when it came to an attacker trying to hack into a network, they would have to do things kind of manually or in some way kind of scripted in a designed way, where they would need to identify, do reconnaissance, then launch attacks manually, and then take over a device, and then from there do the next stages of their attack. But now with increasing automation and then AI being added to the automation, it allows this to all happen at once within a few seconds. So the speed of attacks has dramatically increased from the point of the exploit being compromised on a network to actual action that's causing damage taking place. So for these attacks, how do we prevent and stop these threats? Well, the router is really well placed in the network because it sees all the traffic that it passes through it when it comes to going out to the internet. So for a position of being able to prevent the attacks, the router, the gateway, is where the traffic's passing through. So it is potentially a really good point where we can add an additional layer of protection. It wouldn't necessarily replace having antivirus on laptops. That's a good thing to have, but it can add an additional layer of protection that can help detect malicious attackers trying to come into the network and potentially detect devices on the LAN that are kind of acting suspiciously, that might need to be blocked. So that's something that, from a point of view of stopping new threats, utilizing the gateway is a good option to pick. Another part of the cybersecurity kind of horizon is to do with compliance, and how can we make compliance challenges easier. There's a bunch of different types of compliance that a organization might have. One is PCI DSS compliance, which is something related to the payment card industry, and if you are as an organization processing credit card data, there's some compliance relating to there that's normally put in place by the merchants who will be processing payments for you if you have payment machines on your network. And then there's cybersecurity insurance. Companies are increasingly turning to insurance to help protect them from the consequences of attack, but to have valid insurance in the same way that if you have car insurance, you can't just drive around like a maniac. You have to be driving sensibly and following the rules. The same with cybersecurity insurance, that the insurers will have various standards that they expect an organization to be meeting for the insurance to be valid. And so from a compliance point of view, there's a challenge there, because you've got to make sure that you're using the right tools and following the correct processes on a network for your insurance to be valid. And then also there's Cyber Essentials certification. This is a UK certification scheme that is something that organizations will come across, sometimes mainly when they're a supplier and their customer asks them if they have Cyber Essentials. That's often the first point where people kind of realize that this is a thing that they can get, and it's a certification scheme that allows them to self-certify based off of meeting some criteria and best practices around firewall internet gateways, secure configuration, patch management, user access control, and malware protection. And it's a good thing to get, but it does mean that there's some compliance things to go through to reach that and to be able to get the certification. So how can we ease the administrative burden for a person responsible for the IT? For small companies, often it ends up being someone whose dedicated role isn't necessarily only IT. They may be responsible for other aspects as well. In some cases, it might be the owner that's taking care of the IT things as well. But there's, when it comes to cybersecurity, some burdens for them as well. But also, if they're using kind of some of the traditional next-gen firewall gateways, there are often a lot of administrative burdens that come with those, relating to keeping signatures updated, tweaking many rule sets, handling false positives and alerts, the amount of resource that you need to throw into being able to deal with encrypted traffic, because that does increase the cost dramatically when it comes to the hardware that you need, and also managing any performance overheads of having all of these protections active can reduce the performance for users. So, but this overall is kind of an administrative burden for the people responsible for the IT. And related to it, there's kind of two different ways that we think of assets on the network. We have a key concept here to do with managed device and unmanaged device. A managed device is what we would describe as a smart device, something that is a reasonably capable device, for example, a laptop or a phone. That would be a smart device, and it has some characteristics that the vendor is often providing patches. The patches are easy to apply, often done in an automated way, and you can often install an antivirus security agent on the device. And the network behavior of that device tends to be very complicated. It's very unpredictable. People could do anything on a laptop, so you can't often kind of identify what is suspicious behavior versus normal behavior because of the complexity of the network behavior. Then we have unmanaged devices. These are operational technology devices or IoT devices, and they are ones that tend to sit around a network for a long period of time, so they can end up in some cases not having vendor provided patches due to the age of the device. They, typically speaking, are not necessarily as easy to upgrade. It's not like it's got a keyboard and mouse that you're logging into every day. There's sometimes devices that you install in a wall or on the ceiling or somewhere in the network, and tend to forget about them. And also they're ones that are embedded devices, so they don't necessarily have the capability to have antivirus or even have any antivirus software that's been designed for them to be able to install. But a thing around the behavior that's quite good is they're often more simple. If you've got a device that is just a printer, or you've got a device that is a light bulb switch that's turns on and off, it's a lot more simple in the expected behavior. You wouldn't expect to see them doing lots of web browsing. You'd see very limited amounts of network traffic to specific IPs and specific types. So it means it's quite easy to look at the network behavior and identify what is potentially suspicious behavior. So those two different categories, managed devices and unmanaged devices, and the difference with those two is allows us to potentially through the VigorShield Threat Protection look at different categories of device and then apply policies for them. So what is the VigorShield Threat Protection system? I'll give you a bit of an overview of it. For one of those sites where you add a DrayTek router in with the threat protection service enabled, it allows a control panel that you would be able to log into to see that will have have a user portal that is able to give a security status and monitoring of the activities that are happening on the device. And what the threat protection system is a software as a service delivered security capability that protects the entire LAN, securing the gateway. It secures network traffic and also the connected devices without having to install any endpoint agent on the devices on the network. The architecture of it is around an edge to cloud architecture. So you have the VigorShield, Sentry or Guardian. Sentry and Guardian is the name for the different product depending on which of the DrayTek products, and Sentry is on the 2136 series and 2767 series, and then Guardian is on the 2928 and the 2867 series. So that would be running on the DrayTek router, and then the agent reports to the cloud service, and the cloud service is able to give threat detection and reporting of any threats that have been seen, and it's able to through the volume of devices and networks that it's seen, able to get good intelligence on emerging threats, and then also deliver device visibility and threat detection of the devices by analyzing some of the traffic from each individual device to identify what the device is and what it should or shouldn't be doing. The architecture is kind of shown here. So we have your network devices on the LAN of the DrayTek router. Then we have the internet, and then the Sentry and Guardian connected to the cloud. You have a portal that you can log into to see the status of the protection, any reports and logging. And this provides a governance interface that allows you to see what's happening and kind of monitor the network. From the point of view of protection scope, there's the two kind of areas. It's one, enhancing the security of the router itself because it's adding extra defense to the router. So it's protecting the gateway from attacks against its management services and blocking direct attacks to the router from the WAN to the LAN. So it's keeping the site online, but also it's adding network protection. So it's protecting devices and traffic behind the gateway and spotting suspicious behavior, blocking that, and thereby reducing any lateral threats inside the LAN. So how does it do that? Well, it's got three different pillars of the capability. We have device fingerprinting, which is the key part of the asset detection. So the asset detection allows us to identify the devices on the LAN, be able to spot what device has been connected. Network and IT security builds on top of that. So based off of the device fingerprinting and identifying devices on the network, we can then monitor for suspicious traffic and things that are out of the ordinary using the cloud intelligence of the reporting of into that to then get the feedback from it on any suspicious activity detected. And then we also have, as a third pillar, content filtering, which is able to enforce policies to prevent users from accessing restricted content. So if we look at the first pillar, device fingerprinting, the key part there is the device detection. So it has real-time detection of any newly connected devices. It can report if they're offline or online, and it has a inventory that it picks up. For those devices, it's able to, using assistance, identify the device by different ways of looking at the attributes. One of them is looking at the MAC address, but there are more things on top of this by looking at the type of traffic it's generating. And by looking at this over time, we can build up a good identity of each device to be able to pick up what the device type is, who the vendor is, and in some cases what the operating system and version is of the device. Then through this we can put in a policy foundation. So once we categorize device as managed or unmanaged, and then if it's unmanaged, we can look at what type of IoT device it is, and then be able to have an idea about what type of traffic we expect that device to then be doing. This feeds into then the second pillar, the network and IoT security, which incorporates a bunch of different protections. So we have DOS defense, so we can mitigate against DOS attacks from the WAN into the router, brute force protection to detect and prevent any scanning coming into the router. We have the URL IP reputation to block access to known malicious IPs, which provides safe browsing. Port scan blocking there's two ways with this. One is that there are a number of port scanning systems that will build up a general picture of the whole of the IPv4 address space and report and show a list as a service. It blocks these scanning sites, but also it would also detect and block any individual scanning activity from an IP. But with the port scan blocking of the sites that are building up a picture and doing regular scanning of everything, there's a bunch of IPs that we know they are coming from. So those IP lists are constantly updated and blocked, and that enables the router to automatically block that, which stops a lot of the reconnaissance. Then we have IoT virtual patching, which prevents any known exploits that potentially come in. So it's able to, if a device has a vulnerability and it hasn't been patched, the router could potentially be able to block that and provide a virtual patching and block the attempted command injection against a targeted unmanaged device. And then we have the behavior anomaly detection, which is able to detect any suspicious behavior. For example, if a printer was acting out of the ordinary when it comes to doing things it shouldn't do. For example, it shouldn't be port scanning the network, so it would then be detected and blocked. As part of that, we have the dynamic firewall. This is a core part of the zero trust principles that apply at least privilege rules based on the device type of the device that's been detected for the IoT devices, and this restricts traffic dynamically by device type. And we also have the DPI virtual hot patching, which can prevent exploits without having to have endpoint software on them. Then our third pillar is the content filtering. So this is the sort of content filtering that you would have come across before. So you're able to filter based on categories that you want to block access to, and having standard policies of which users can access what sort of content. So it provides category filtering, but also there is safe browsing sensitivity levels. You can set low, moderate, or high risk thresholds that will automatically block sites that are known to be of poor reputation. And there's also service filtering as well on top of that to allow you to block different types of categories. For example, you could allow Facebook while blocking social media. And then there's a policy model, so you can apply a company-wide policy, but also there can be per user and per device overrides with different policies for specific users. And this has a summary of the different features that are available based off of the different router protections. So for the unmanaged, it additionally gets the device hot patching and anomaly detection. We don't do the anomaly detection on the managed group because for IP for laptops and for phones, smartphones, those are too unpredictable in the amounts of things they can do for us to have the anomaly detection. There would be potentially false positives from that, so we don't have anomaly detection for the managed group. For you can see from the functionality that the majority of those are applied to all devices. So Next thing, let's look at some use cases and some scenarios relating to using the VigorShield Threat Protection. So with VigorShield Sentry, this is intended for secure networking for kind of SOHO sites. So it's ideal for a small business that has a small number of users on the site, with the 2136 or the 2767. Provides IE assisted firewalling and zero IT resources required to get the things. It's operating 24/7 with automatic protections, so you don't necessarily need to have a dedicated on-site IT specialist looking into this daily. There are some things that you can do to do with the configuration, but these are all very quite straightforward, and there's not a lot of complexity to the setup, as I'll see when I demo through some of the screens. And then for slightly larger sites, we have the Vigor 2928 and 2867. So that's for the kind of small, medium business. It's essentially the same sort of protections, but it's about the number of devices that's intended to be protected on the network. That's the main difference between Sentry and Guardian as the two different products. And I wanted to just run through some potential scenarios that threat protection can help block. So the first one is malicious remote access with a brute force attack. So for example, an attacker has discovered a camera with an IoT web crawler search engine, and the attacker's identified that it's got a vulnerability, so it then uses a brute force. Actually, in this situation, it just uses brute force to just obtain login credentials, that if someone's not used strong password, then that can be easily compromised, and then could get access to the device and access the feed. The way that threat protection can help is that the web crawlers will be blocked, so their mapping attempts would be identified and blocked by the port scanning blocking. But if there was brute force protection, that would be blocked by the brute force protection mechanism. So that would prevent the attacker from discovering the device, but also if they did discover the device, it could prevent the brute force protection from occurring, because it would be detected as activity. The second scenario is anomaly detecting and blocking for a smart plug hijack. So situation where the attacker utilizes an open port that's been left on the router and has a known weakness in the smart plug, so it's a vulnerability, and then the smart plug be compromised. So the threat protection could protect, because the anomaly detection can be blocked by the AI adaptive firewall, and then this prevents the negative user impact, because the smart plug could then continue to operate as normal, and that would then be reported in the user portal as well, so you could see that attack took place. And I mentioned about IoT web crawlers, so something like Shogun is a open kind of web crawler that you can look in and then do searches to find different device types. So this can be used for reconnaissance. These web crawlers have IP addresses that will do lots of scanning of ports on the router, and try and identify and categorize different types of devices that have been found. The VigorShield Threat Protection can block this by knowing the IP addresses by list, because of the scale. We can see all of these devices going around, and then can be detecting these attempts and then blocking them by putting them in an IP block list, so that we've automatically able to block those devices. That means that they can't then detect the devices exposed to the internet. And then a malicious remote activity by a web vulnerability attack. So if an attacker discovers an IoT device with a known vulnerability connected to the network, it could then leverage an attack using kind of open source databases that can list some of the vulnerabilities and how to exploit them. And then once it's been compromised, it could then use lateral movement to get remote to shell access, and then from that, then download some applications from the command and control server to then employ them to attack maybe the router locally or other devices. So the device discovery in this situation will be blocked by the web port scanning, but then the device vulnerability could be blocked by the hot patch mechanism, and the adaptive firewall could halt anomalous behavior by noticing the communication, and also by the IP reputation command and control device servers could be blocked, because we would potentially have have them as a poor IP reputation and then be blocked for devices trying to connect to them from the network. And then the fifth scenario I've got is to do with cyber essentials. So if a supplier requires the customer to have cyber essentials certification, I want to just talk about how DrayTek VigorShield Threat Protection can help with some of the areas. So we've got firewall, secure configuration, security update management, user access controls, and malware protection. The first one is to do with firewalls. So cyber essentials requires that there is a properly configured boundary firewall to prevent unauthorized access. So VigorShield helps tick that requirement there, because it's built in directly into the router, and it provides advanced threat filtering at the perimeter with DOS attack mitigation, port scan detection, brute force protection, malicious IP and suspicious traffic blocking. So that then helps meet that requirement. The next one is the configuration at the network edge. So cyber essentials requires a secure default settings, appropriate network segmentation, and limiting exposed services and monitoring the device. VigorShield wouldn't do everything on there. Some of these are to do with how you're configuring the device, but VigorShield is set by default to ensure that you've got automatic device discovery and identification across the LAN, behavior monitoring for normal activity, and blocking of compromised devices to prevent lateral movement. So these help support the requirement to maintain a secure and well segmented network by ensuring unknown or misconfigured devices don't silently weaken the security. And then update management. So cyber essentials requires that devices are regularly updated. It doesn't specifically say how many days, but some 14 days is a kind of a guideline that's typically cited. VigorShield Threat Protection doesn't replace patching. However, supported routers would receive continual cloud-based security intelligent updates. So those signatures that the router is using will continually keep getting updated, but also Drayos 5 offers auto update for firmware now, so you can enable that and have the router automatically be updated once the new firmware is released. So the OS and software patching still required for in-scope devices on the LAN, of course. I wouldn't say that this replaces patching of the PCs and keeping those updated. And then user access control. So Cyber Essentials requires MFA for admin, restriction, non-privileged accounts, and also control to the systems. So Threat Protection doesn't directly manage that, but there's another function in the supported by the DrayTek routers, which is DrayTek IAM, and with that you can define user controls, privileges, enable secure sign-in, and control device and network access and manage devices across your infrastructure. So that's another function that's supported on the routers that helps with the user access control area. And then the fifth is malware protection. So that Cyber Essentials requires that you have protection against malware by using tools such as AV, using sandboxing, and Threat Protection really helps with this through network level malware and phishing protection, blocking phishing, malware, ransomware, and botnet destinations. The content filtering can block a lot of bad IPs. The AI-assisted threat detection can block based on behavior, and we have the additional protection devices that can't run AV security. So those IoT devices get those protection levels at the network level. And then you'd still have endpoint protection, antivirus on your Windows machines. That's still recommended and expected, but it adds a second layer of defense. So it's defense in depth by potentially blocking malicious traffic before the endpoints are reached, by preventing people from actually accidentally going to a malware site, because the site could hopefully be blocked, but if it's got a bad reputation and is blocked by the content filtering. So that's the scenarios I wanted to run through. I have a user portal demo to give you an idea of the look and feel of the system. So there's a user portal that you would have an account to log into, and when you log in there, you have this dashboard that shows you the status of the network. So this will show how many threats have been blocked recently, malicious sites blocked, how many devices have had attacks that were blocked on the network, how many devices have been detected on the network and how many online at the moment, and how many users are in the office active using devices. We have network and security trends. That's just for this site, so it shows how many different events there've been of different types. So we've got new devices being detected, safe browsing, anomaly detection and content filtering, and then it lists the categories of the devices and the users that have been set up on the network. Then we have the network tab, and there it lists all of the network devices by different category. We also can click on these this button here on the right to list it in a long list of all the devices, and we can click on any of these devices to get more information. So here we click on that, we can see the specific details of the device, and that's where you can see it lists the device type by type of device, product, model, IP, vendor, operating system, hostname and MAC address, and also has reports of when the device is disconnected or connected, and also if there's any security events. We look at another device. Here's an iPhone. We can see that it's detected the model there, showing us as an iPhone 17, and also detected the operating system. It's able to do this through the length of time that it can see. So to begin with, when it first is appeared on the network, it might just detect that it's an iPhone, for example, or something that's from Apple. But then the longer it can see traffic, the more likely it is to get a higher confidence of being able to identify what type of device it is, and it can show what content blocks there have been. You can also enable and disable the security if you want, so you can do an override to disable the security on an individual device if you want to not have the security. If, for example, there was a report that a device was not able to get access to something that it should do, a quick workaround for that is to just toggle the security on and off if you wanted to, as a quick troubleshooting technique. But you can also block the device from the network entirely. So if you've got a device that you don't recognize, you can just block it so it can't then use the internet, and you can delete the device from the network if you don't need to monitor the device anymore. Then we have on the network the assets as well. So we can see the users that we've got on the network. Here we've got a user that's set up, and we can assign devices to them. So we click there, and then we can pick a device, select it, update, and then add it, and then that device is now assigned to the user. The benefit of doing that is then the content filtering rules we've assigned to that user are then applied to that device. So we can set what categories are blocked, and also the safe browsing level, and any website filtering that we want to enable or disable when it comes to different filtering. For example, we've got Instagram and Netflix listed here. There's a drop down of all the different services you can select from there, of ones that you can do specific overrides to go in addition to the categories. So you might, for example, allow LinkedIn but block social networking. In the assets here, we also have device groups as well. So we can, with a with a device, assign it to a device group instead of assigning it to a user. So for example, here I've created a group called phones, and then here I can assign devices that are phones to that group. And that then gives me the same sort of controls, but based off of a device group than a user group. Any individual device can only be a member of one group, either a device group or assigned to a user. You don't have a device in a device group and also assigned to a user. It's one or the other. But this allows you to group together different devices. Maybe you've got PDQ machines for payment terminals. You could group those all in a device and then have specific filtering rules applied to them, and have different filtering rules by different devices depending on the requirements of what's needed for that device. And you could have different safe browsing levels as well. So you might have higher browsing strict levels for certain devices and low ones for others if you wanted to. So we can then go into that device group there, and you can see the devices that are assigned to that device group with all the different filtering that's then applied to those devices. We can, for each device group, click on reports. So here we can have reports of those devices, and we can export that as well for reporting purposes. So we click that, we can then have an Excel CSV type file that we can then download that can be useful for reporting if we want to do annual or maybe quarterly reporting on assets on the network. This is a helpful way of helping with doing that sort of activity. Yeah, so that's very helpful. And then the next thing I've want to show you is the reports. So this shows you reports of all the different activities and events that have been seen on the network. You can see here there's different risk levels that you can toggle to show different types of events. You've got kind of 0 risk and then 1, 2, and 3 of the different levels. If we select 3, we can see these malicious IPs have been blocked. These would in this case be, I think, likely to be scanning devices trying to scan, or maybe an IP address that has a very poor reputation that this phone would have been prevented from accessing. Here's some more events. So you've got port scans and websites that have been blocked, and also an inbound scan there being blocked. You can click on the next to get different pages of the reports as well. So and then also you can download the reports on there as well. The next thing is the settings. So this is where you can set the network applied content filtering. So for any device that is new to the network, it would have these settings applied to it by default until it is assigned to a specific user or device group. So there you can set the global settings on the network. So that's kind of an overview of all the settings on there. As you can see, it's quite straightforward. There isn't a lot of tweaking that you generally need to do. So it's something that is quite usable for people that maybe don't have an internal IT team, or it's kind of low maintenance for someone who's offering IT services to someone. It shouldn't be time consuming to be able to run the threat protection function on the device. To give you an overview of the license activation process, so the threat protection itself is a subscription that you can get as a 1, 3, or 5 year subscription. The threat protection Sentry SRP is around £119 per year. But there's some discounts on a multi-year ones on there, and that's the kind of assessed retail price. So you check with your suppliers for any discounts that you could get from them. The Sentry is available now on the 2136 and 2767 series of routers. It's at the moment the non-wireless and wireless. The 4G variant is getting firmware later for support. And then the Guardian is going to be supported on the 2928 and 2867. That's going to be in future firmware. So we haven't got that launched yet, but that will be coming later. Here's the router screen. Just wanted to show you how you can check the license and also do activation. So we would go to system maintenance and registration services, and then here we've got the product registration. This is where you can register the device with MyVigor, and then we have the service status, which will show you the status of threat protection. So here we've got a service that's been activated already, and it will show the start and date of the service. And then in the threat protection tab, it shows you if it's enabled on the router, shows the agent version and the status of the running agent on the device. But if we want to manage the license, we will go to service status and then select manage licenses and services, and then log in with our MyVigor account for this account. So you would have a MyVigor account that you're using to manage devices. You can have many devices assigned to the same MyVigor account, so you just have to set that up once on the MyVigor website, and on there you'd log in, see the service status. That's where it's got the different services. So we got DrayDNS is covered under the same portal, but we go to VigorShield, and then there we've got the your reputation or the Sentry. So VigorShield Threat Protection Sentry is the service. You can have one or the other. Your reputation is a separate license that you can use instead of Sentry for content filtering, but just delivered in a slightly different way. So there you have the ability to see the license information, and you could activate the license, pick the date, and then you input a license key to do the activations. Very similar to how the DrayTek have been activating licenses previously for some other services. And then on MyVigor, you can use that for device management. So on there, we can see all the devices associated with our account, and also we can see the service status for all the devices on there. So the thing I mentioned just recently was the VigorShield URL IP reputation. That's our other web content filtering service. Just wanted to give a bit of a quick overview on that to explain the differences between the two. So we have the VigorShield Threat Protection. That is a license that gives you the three pillars that I talked through: the IT security, device asset detection, and also web content filtering. The URL IP reputation is an alternative license that you would activate instead of threat protection, and that just gives you the URL reputation, IP reputation functionality. So this gives granular controls over content filtering in a similar way. So it helps with providing restrictions on what content users can access, and also has a IP-based reputation scanning. So it's blocking based on IP, based on a score that is given to a device. So that means that kind of botnets and other different types of websites and assets that are used for kind of bad purposes tend to have a high risk or suspicious rating, and you can set it so that bad reputation devices, IPs, are not able to be contacted by devices on the network. So DrayOS 5 supports this URL reputation filtering. You can set inbound, outbound rules there about blocking when it comes under a certain level, and you've also got the different categories there in the filtering. This is supported by the following firmwares here on a bunch of different router models. So we have 3 different license types: Silver, A, and B. The B is for the 21 series, A is for the SMB, the 20, 29, 28 series routers, and it's supported by these firmware versions here. So let's just have a summary now of what we've covered. So as I showed with the VigorShield Threat Protection, we've got 3 different core pillars of activity that you get from the system. So that device fingerprinting for that asset detection, a very useful function, because it is quite a challenge for people to identify what devices on their network, especially if you've had a network that's been running for a long time. People can add lots of different things, you might not know about it. So this allows you to get better visibility and actually really be aware of when someone connects to a device, and also it's logging it. So if someone connects to a device for a few minutes and then disconnects it again, you'll have that in the logs. We got that network and IT security for the whole LAN with all of the different protections, and then also we've got that content filtering that you have on top as well that you can activate to mitigate risk to the browsing of the internet. So the key takeaway there is listed here with all the different types of benefits we have from there. So that automatic asset visibility, that vulnerability protection, agentless coverage, so you don't need to install a application on the IoT device because it's being protected the router. So for hard to patch and legacy devices, that adds a bit of extra security. I mean, legacy devices often you really want to have a plan around getting those replaced, but this gives an additional level of protection. Has a least privilege access control, so it's by device type, limiting what it can do, and then we've got actionable reporting through the user portal, and it's kind of always current, always getting updated. So as soon as new attacks are noticed and that signature's updated, those then get pushed to the router, and it gives you a faster time to getting to protection, and generally at lower IT overhead through having less fine tuning and rules and day-to-day maintenance that you'd need to be doing. So if you're interested in finding out some more information, we do have an opportunity for you to book a follow-up with a salesperson who can give you a live demo, but also would be able to help you with a trial. I'm going to post the URL to the chat as well to everyone, so that should hopefully appear there as a chat comment for you as well. But you could scan that, but we will send a follow-up email to people with that. So yeah, I highly recommend having booking a follow-up if you want to have a conversation with us around that to get into more detail. And also we have some special offers for today. One is we have some special NFR pricing on 2 of the models that are compatible with this. So the Vigor 2136AX have a special price of 99 for a not for resale version for you to do trial with, and the 767 at a price as a 129 for the 2767 AX. So there's some decent discounts there for getting access to a unit. You can get in touch with your account manager if you want to get a 30-day trial for the threat protection. That's a no. That's just a 30-day trial, so there's no obligation there. You can just activate that on a device and get a 30-day trial. So yeah, contact your account manager. And as I mentioned, if you want to get a demo, then yeah, get in contact. Scan that, and there's the URL. So that's the kind of main presentation that we covered through. Now we have an opportunity to run through some questions and answers session. So I have, I think, Doris Vincent, who will be coming on and joining me in helping with some of the questions that have been asked. If you've asked questions during, then thank you very much, and hopefully you would have received some direct replies. But now we've got an opportunity to go through a live Q&A session.
Thanks, Alex, and thank you all for joining today's webinar. It's time for the Q&A session, and I will be reading out some of the questions you've submitted in the chat. So thank you to everyone who shared. Alex will be providing answers and insight some of the questions. So our first question for today, let's see. Someone asked if the threat protection feature can protect both wired and wireless devices connected to the router.
Yes, it can protect any devices that it can directly see. then it's going to be able to protect. So access point, devices that are connected via an access point or that are connected to the wireless of the router is going to be able to protect. The visibility for it depends a lot on if there's any NAT occurring. So if you've got another router on the network and you've got a device behind that router and that router's doing NAT before it gets to the router that's running the threat protection, then it won't be able to see the MAC addresses and would only see all traffic as coming from one device. So you wouldn't get the same level of controls if you've got NAT occurring. But if you've got devices connected to access points, there wouldn't be any NAT occurring on that. So you'd be able to get the same level of protection that we've covered through for everything. So yeah, I think that the short answer there is yes, you should be able to get threat protection for any devices connected via wireless.
Thank you. There was some questions about what routers this feature will work with. So Alex, could you confirm what models will support threat protection?
Yes, so the ones that support it currently is the 2136 and 2136AX, 2767 and 2767AX. Those are current support. The future support will be the 4G variant of those models additionally with a firmware update, and then also we've got the 2928 and 2860 2928 and 2867 series of routers will have threat protection added to it as well in future once we've got the firmware available for those models.
Thank you. The next question is if this will be threat protection will be replacing the web content filtering, or is it the same license as web content filtering or separate license? And yeah, if you could confirm that.
Yeah, so it's one or the other. So on a router that supports threat protection and web content filtering, they're two different they're two different licenses. So you wouldn't have both activated. You activate one or the other because the threat protection also has content filtering in it, so you wouldn't need the standalone web content filtering service. You'd have one or the other.
Thank you for that answer. Another question we got is if it's possible to whitelist certain websites or services in threat protection.
In the threat protection, you can whitelist based off of the services that in the drop-down list. So there's a list there. You can't add manual overrides for that. So you can't specifically type in a URL or something to enable to override that at the moment. So that's not something that you can add in. But you've got that service drop-down that you have that you can select.
Thank you. There's a question about the VigorShield portal, who's hosting it, who's going to host it? If you could clarify that.
Yes, so that's something that is hosted by DrayTek, so it comes as part of the license. So you don't have to run or install the portal itself. It's something that is cloud hosted as a service, and the subscription covers the access to that service.
Thank you. Also, a question about the MSP side of things. Someone asked if a multi-network portal that they could log into to manage each customer individually.
Yes, so you have each user account would be per device, but for MSPs, and you can discuss this with your account manager, there is going to be an MSP portal login as well, in addition to the user portal. We were just highlighting today the user portal primarily, but there is going to be an MSP portal that you would be able to use to be able to get access to all of the devices that you're managing through that MSP portal. So for more information on that, do discuss that with your account manager. because they'll be able to help with availability of that once the MSP portal is available for people to use.
Okay. So a question is if this is going to be included in Vigor ACS, and is there a cost for the license or to use it?
So to
And
the
also where can
license,
they buy it? Sorry.
yeah,
Just
yeah,
yeah.
okay, yeah. The license itself starts at the SRP for the whole system is the 1.1 what was it, 119 or 129, I forget now. So we've got the service itself is 119 as the SRP. That includes everything for the threat protection. We have plans to add integration into Vigor ACS as well in the future. If that's added, then there wouldn't be any additional costs from the threat protection side of things. It would be at the moment it's planned for it to be just included as part of the existing node license when it comes to the Vigor ACS licensing that you'd already have. Did that answer that question, Doris?
Yes, it does. Yes. I think, I don't know if we've still got time for more questions. And we'll take just one more.
Okay.
Does it work on routers that have double NAT? There's no question.
So if a router's got double NAT, that's fine for if the threat protection is running on a router that's behind another device on NAT, then that will still work. That's fine. So the router itself that's running threat protection doesn't have to have a public IP. If it's also behind NAT, then it's going to get additional protections because inbound there's less stuff that can get to it, but it can still operate and function properly, and it will be able to get access to the central portal. So that shouldn't be a problem. And I've seen there's a related question to that around where the data is stored. The threat protection user portal is based in a German data center. So it's based in Germany is the location for where the user portal runs and stores its data.
Good. Yeah.
Okay, great. So I think we can then wrap up and kind of thank everyone for attending. I just wanted to mention that we will be sending a follow-up email and also a recording of the session to people. So if anyone has any colleagues they want to forward it on to, or if anyone kind of missed the start or had to drop away during, then we'll have a recording that people will be able to watch back later. But thank you very much, and there should be a survey as well. So if you've got any comments or feedback for us, then please do feel free to add those in on the survey. So that'd be very appreciated. Thank you very much, and hope you enjoyed today's session. Goodbye.